Good morning,
Good
everybody.
morning. Hey, we're early.
Good morning.
You jumped the gun, Allison.
Yeah, I'd started a little bit early because I want to get the hellos, the good mornings, all that sort of stuff out of the way. So when we actually get to on the dot starting time, cut away all the hellos and the good mornings, and we can actually start with our topic. Speaking of topics today, hello to Chris.
Good
Morning, everyone.
Chris. Welcome to the show.
Yes, welcome. And Allie, you got something wrong with the intro. It's stuttering really bad.
Yeah,
I don't know if
think
it's
I might
doing it
be
on your end or not, but I don't know what's causing that, but probably Steve's lousy internet.
Oh, don't blame it on me. Blame it on Heath.
blame it on me.
Blame it on Heath.
Blame it on Heath, okay.
It's Heath's
He's
fault.
not here from what I can see. But we've got Tracy Joe, Al Mar, Dwayne's Fork and Spoon Railroad, Carolina Foothills Railroad D Knight, hello. Roy Eltham, up from PDR Engineer, Train Creek. Good morning to you all. Yes, it is always his fault.
How's everybody doing this morning?
Oh, I'm here.
You're here?
Yeah.
Well, thank God we're here.
I'm not sick, let's put it that way. But and my wife's getting much better. She's over the fevers and all that stuff, so she's turned the corner on the virus.
That's awesome.
It's done pretty good. But anyway, Allie, why don't you introduce Christopher for us? Or Chris. Do you like Chris or Christopher?
You can call me anything you want except late for dinner.
Uh-oh.
I'm kind of the same way.
Well, hello, Chris. Chris is a member from my local model railway club. He's been in chat and been watching our shows for a little while, so I thought we'd have him on as a guest and get to talk to him a little bit about what he's more of an expert in when it comes to model railroading. So, Chris, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, I'm one of these people who does the black magic artwork of 3D printing for model railways. So, obviously been chatting to Ali in the background and doing a number of projects since 3D printers became readily available, and sort of learned from there. A friend of mine who I wanted to drag on with us, unfortunately, he likes to sleep, so he couldn't join us tonight, but John Rumming is a guy here in Perth who Ali and I both know, and he's the one who really got me moving from the scratch building with styrene era to, hey, draw it in a computer and print it. And 5-6 years later, here I am down the rabbit warren. Well and truly down the rabbit warren. And there's no turning back.
And I understand, oh, sorry, did I step over somebody? No, I was just saying, I understand you know a thing or two about DCC as well.
Yeah, I got into DCC when it first became available here in Australia. So that'd be 2005. I actually found the receipt for my original NCE power cab. So I've been in DCC since day dot in here in Australia, and it's one of the best things I ever did. It's worth every penny. You know, okay, I had to get rid of some older locomotives that there's no way you can convert, and it's been worth it. You know,
Absolutely.
I've just finished pulling one apart, which is an old Walther's Berkshire, lifelike Berkshire that they did. And that took 9 months to isolate the motor and everything because you've got to machine and mill the frames. So, you know, it's one of those things where you either love it or you hate it. You know, Ali and I had this conversation at our local club because you have people who still want to stick with the old way of DC, and there are those who want to go with the new way. Or as we were told, it's just black magic. It just happens. So, as I said, I'm more into the 3D printing now. I've just relocated. Now, this is where my maths, I think I'm going to do bad. 2,000 miles I've had to relocate. So from Canberra back to Perth, Western Australia. So I'm in the process of building a new layout. So there's going to be a lot of 3D printed objects on that layout.
Wow.
And the good news is the Minister for War and Infrastructure and Planning has said I can have half the carport.
Ooh. What are the dimensions going to be on your layout?
9 feet by 16 feet.
Ooh.
All N scale.
And thank you for doing that in feet and not meters. Appreciate that.
Did you say in scale?
I had to convert the measurements in my head, so I'm doing well.
Well, I appreciate that.
Did you say in scale?
N scale.
Oh, that'd be a good size layout for in scale.
Oh, yeah.
That's almost as big as mine, space-wise. But you probably, if you've got a full rectangle in that, you've got more space than what I've got because mine's an L shape, about 12 by 17, I think. But you know, I can't use all of that space, so. But it's, for me, it's not bad.
As I said, it's clean slate. Time to play with something new.
Yeah. So, are you using a track planning software to do it? Do you track plan?
Yeah, I bought a copy of AnyRail 6, and I've been really fiddling with that, and it's been really good so far.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I couldn't use it because I had a Mac at the time that I was doing it. I don't think they had it for Mac at that time.
No, it is hit and miss on the Mac. Rail Modeler is far better on the Mac than anything.
See, I hadn't even heard of that, but I looked and looked and looked for stuff, and I couldn't find anything except I ended up using Empire Express Deluxe, and it did what I needed to do, which was mainly give me a main concept of what I wanted, because I still change stuff as I'm building.
Yeah, well, that's the main thing. I mean, I've had a few conversations with Ally on and off for the last week or two, us going through, oh, look, this would be a nice place in WA to model. Oh, this would be a nice place. And, of course, suddenly the layout is taking more and more variations at the moment. I haven't got to sit down and go, nah, that's it. That's the final design.
Oh, yeah, exactly. You can, if you try to get everything on it, you won't get anything on it.
Yeah, no. There's just so much. It's very much like the American outline. If I wasn't going to build a West Australian outline one, I was going to be building something on the West Coast for US, and I just went, where do you go?
Yeah.
You looking, it's, do I go Union Pacific? Do I go Santa Fe? Do I go BNSF? Do you go Southern Pacific?
Santa Fe. Santa Fe.
Well, that's one reason. Yeah, that's one reason I did mine's fully freelance. It's it's based on some stuff, but there's no actual scenes that are real in mine. That way, I could do whatever I wanted, and it makes it a lot easier in that regard. Because if you're trying to actually copy something that's in real life and people recognize it, and you don't do it right, or you don't do it right in their eyes, then But if it's all fictitious, there's not much they can say about it.
Chris, if you're going to do West Coast, where would you do it? What would you choose?
I'm thinking probably if I was doing American outline, it'd probably be California area with the desert.
The desert? Why would you pick the desert?
Desert's cool, man.
I'm from Western Australia, and as Ali would tell you, there's a desert between us and the East Coast, thank God.
Yeah, desert's got great weather.
And you don't have to build any trees.
Well, some cactus and stuff.
Oh, could you imagine having to cover your layout, Chris, in trees? Oh my God. No wonder you want to. Yeah, no wonder you want to do a desert.
Well, now, Steve, I was born in the high desert above Cajon Pass, and in the arroyos and stuff, we had cottonwood trees. We had some big cottonwood trees. And
hey, back up, Claude. You were born in the desert.
Yeah.
High desert.
Wow. Apple Valley, California.
Did you have a
Right next
house,
door.
or were you just, did you have a sleeping bag? Or were you just, did you have a sleeping bag?
Well, my parents actually lived in an adobe house at the time I was born.
Oh no, you said you were born in the desert. I was like, okay.
Yeah,
Not too
we
many
were out
people.
there.
Did your car break down?
No, we lived there, man.
Oh man, don't get me started.
Speaking of the devil, speaking of the devil, guess who's in chat? Nuzzle58.
I just saw that. I'm going to try and rope him in. He just doesn't know it yet. So give me 2 seconds. I'm going to try and rope him in.
Nuggle58. Okay.
Yep. That's John. He's one of the other compatriots I do stuff with. So,
Another John.
Another John.
Now, whilst you're doing that, Chris, just having a quick chat about prototype. What prototype, I guess you're modelling, West Australian prototype these days?
The only prototype really to model, isn't there, Ali? No, I'm going to be doing probably West Australian outline, probably from 1945 through to 1971. And I'll get an eye roll from Ali here because it's not the West Rail era, but I accept that fact. And the reason why is that steam was still around in Western Australia up until 1971. So I can model all the stuff that we all like, And that's the beauty of N scale is that, I can fit a lot into a nice small space. And a lot of it I've sort of, John has taught me quite a lot. So I'm hoping he'll get the link and he'll join in because he can explain a lot of what he's done. Because I've learned from what he's shown me in 3D printing. And now we're sort of doing some work together as well as I'm doing some side projects here and there. So I'm dabbling in some stuff for SN 3.5 that Ali's aware of that I got asked to do on Monday night. So that's where the beauty of 3D printing is that it can supplement.
First night back at an ESCAL meeting and he's been thrown under the bus.
That's all right. I don't mind a challenge because it's one of these cases where you could scratch build it, but the energy and effort worth for scratch building one coach that has, I think we worked out 6 variations. It's not worth the hassle of having to have 6 masters when all I can do is, produce one coach and make the small little changes at one end. So, this is where 3D printing does have its advantages. So, as I said, I've learned a lot from John. He's been doing it 6 years, and I know he's probably going to jump in the chat and correct me in a second.
He's just put up a message saying after doing it for about 6 years, I've learned a lot of tricks for 3D printing.
See, look at that. I can still pay attention and remember things from time to time.
Hey, Chris, Sparky wants to know how hard it is. Let's see. How hard is it to first start out in 3D printing? I'm having a hard time reading this.
Now, just bear with me. I'm going to find the very first model I ever produced as a 3D print, and you'll soon see how I learnt rather rapidly. This is the problem. This is where I've got to find all the good stuff because it was all standard gauge. Okay, WF.
Yeah, John's made another comment here saying using the printers are easy. It's actually drawing the models that takes a while. And he's dead right.
Okay.
It's getting used to the software just like you would with planning a layout.
Yeah, exactly. It very much is that, Ali. Okay, I think this is the one. No, this is the later variation. That'd be right. Okay. Come on. This is the only problem when you start playing with all this. You got to find all the files again. Okay. I haven't loaded this file for a while, so that's why I will apologize in advance. It's just a bit slow to load. Okay. Ray tracing on. Okay, I'm going to try and share the screen and we'll see how we go. Okay, shared screen, application window. I'm going to hope and pray this works. Okay, so this is just loading up. This is one of the very first wagons I ever 3D drew up, which is a 51-foot flat wagon that Westrail very much designed to be very similar to the 50-foot flat car that the US were using. That's a standard gauge wagon. Now, this is version 6 of this particular drawing. So it's now got all the details in it for printing, including the toolbox, as well as all the indents for the deck. Now, the very first version had no deck indents, no toolbox, and nothing. It was very...
It just came up as black, Chris.
Does this from time to time, so it does play ball. Give me 2 seconds. Okay. It's going to be ordinary. Hang on. I might be able to trick it here, Ali. 2 secs. Only downside to this. Just got to wait for the computer to play ball. Okay, that's probably better. All right, we'll try it that way. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Come on, StreamYard, play ball.
All right, let's try this.
All right, that now appeared. So that's a standard gauge. That's a standard gauge flat wagon that Westrail had. So it's 51 feet long. Looks very much American style with that depressed center beam. That's variation 6. The first version, which I gave to John 2 years ago, had no detail on it, nothing. It was just a bare frame, and that was it. That's version 6, where we've now got the printers dialed in. Now, these are John and I up until this year had filament printers, the old plastic on a roll. And these wagons are pushing the limits of what we can do with a filament printer. And at 2 feet away, you can't tell the difference with this between a resin printer and a filament version. They have the same detail at 2 feet away. You know, we then go to the other extreme, and I'm hoping this is going to work, but I doubt it. Then we go to the other extreme, which is what John's been working on, and I'm hoping this is going to work, and Ali will get a bit of a kick out of this one. Come on. Woo. And this is the latest one where we've gone one step further. We've got access to a resin printer, and we've now pushed it to its utmost limits. And all of those cooling panels on the far left-hand side here actually print now. They're 0.15 by 0.2 mil when I put them in the measurement stick just before the stream started.
Is that in scale?
That's 1/148 scale.
I don't know what that is.
So technically, we should be running these on Z scale track and wheels. Now, John and I have taken the decision to run it on normal 9mm track, even though it looks disproportionate, but it makes it easier for people to access these things. Because Z scale in Australia is not that common.
It's rare.
It's very rare. So, you know, it's one of those things. Same as, you know, we've just started doing all the country rolling stock. So, I mean, that's a ADH. So they were a country rail car that we used here in Western Australia. Now, that's got the Tommy Tech mech in it. I've just got to 3D print the frames to go on the bogie sides because it's still got the hollow ones, because the ones that the Japanese give you with the mechanism aren't the right one. So we'll have to resin print those for them to be correct. But they're 1/148, but they don't look disproportionate. When you put it next to a British Daypole rail car, it looks almost the same dimensions. So because Western Australia seem to run a much wider loading gauge on their 3'6" in comparison to Queensland. And there's a good photo that I wish I'd had organised. It shows that Westrail bought some carriages from Queensland in the 80s to handle the increased metro traffic. there's a picture of an A-class diesel hauling them, and the diesel is a good foot wider on each side of the coach, just to show you how much the West Australian loading gauge is almost standard gauge, to the point that when they put the dual gauge railway through for the East-West link, they didn't even have to modify any station platforms to fit the standard gauge rolling stock through. So the West Australian rolling stock is disproportionately wider. So, you know, but I mean, we've got, you know, I mean, these are all done on a filament printer, so they're not the absolute best, but it does have all the motor vents on it. You know, they're all there. I've just got to add some more detailing parts to it, like add handrails to it, but that's all there. I mean, it's even got the warning stripes on it because I got that board this afternoon. And I just finished it as someone sent me a link for the stream. So it was good timing, Ali.
Thank you. I think this is going to... Everybody's frozen for me again, so I think it's going to boot me off again. It's been booting me off a couple of times now, so bear with me.
That's all right. I'm just... You know, it's filament roofs and bases. So, yeah, I mean, these are all done on a filament printer. I mean, that's a ADE rail car, which is the very first rail cars into Western Australia in the 1930s. So, you know, that's all done on a filament printer just to prove that it works. Yeah, these will now go and have more details added to them, and they'll be resin printed. So there are some perks to it. You know, there's a few interesting conversations that I've been involved with online, where it comes down to the, oh, you know, if you 3D print it, you're not really scratch building it, but yet you're doing all the work, the same amount of work as you would, but you're just not cutting styrene. So in the end, I call it digital scratch building. I think that's the easiest terminology to call it. And, you know, it's what I'm interested in. It might not necessarily be what everyone's interested in, but, you know, here in Australia, a lot of kids now in primary school and high school are taught to use 3D printers. Their schools have 3D printers, and they're taught to 3D print stuff. So, yeah, John, as John just pointed out, the X-Class, which I've just shown, it took a week to get the chassis to look right. And then another month he spent getting all the curves right, because there's so many curves on the nose of the X-Class. So, but again, it is an unofficial steam locomotive after all. It pours out as much smoke as any steam loco. So,
had a car like that once.
These would do it all day, every day, and the only time they were ever clean is when they were freshly painted.
Yeah.
So, as I said, there's lots that is learnt. You know, I've learnt a lot from John, and I've learnt a lot from trial and error. You know, we recently redid one of John's original cast wagons, which was a wheat wagon. So he used to make the very lightweight aluminum wheat wagons, the WWAs. And there was a gel cast one he used to cast in thing. And we decided last year that, well, rather than having to make a new mold, let's see if we can 3D print a new one that's replicable, which we actually managed to do, to the point that John and I both did a version each, and we sent it to a gentleman in Victoria. He got one of each, and he reckoned one was slightly better because it sat lower, yet when we checked the drawing files, they were both identical. The bolster height was identical in every way, shape, and form, and in reality, we don't think he could tell the difference. So, you know, but I said, there are perks to it, same as a friend of mine, he does the fast tracks like Claude does. So rather than buying the match for his sleepers, he 3D prints his number 6 turnout sleepers in a single bit. So when he's sold all his PCB on, he just drops it straight down onto the 3D print sleepers, and he's done. He said it's so much simpler now, rather than having to wait for the ties to dry before to move it out of the jig. He just drops it straight down and moves straight on to the next one. You know, he's done it because he does HO, so he's got number 6 and number 8. He 3D prints all the sleepers for it as one hit. And he says it's the best thing since buttered bread now. He said he just hits print while he goes to bed at night. It prints 2 turnouts. He gets home from work and he does the 2 turnouts, and the printer prints the next 2.
Yeah.
And again, that supplements the old school way of doing things, because with fast tracks, you're still having to solder track to the PCBs, and then you're supplementing it with 3D printing. It's like many things. It's, it all takes time. I mean, we're not just limited to diesels, and I'm hoping this is going to work. I really am. If it doesn't, I'm going to be very annoyed at the computer. Of course it's not going to work. Okay, plan B. I wanted to load this one up just to... Hopefully this will work. So
John, prices have drastically dropped over the years for printers. 12 years ago, it was $12,000 for a filament printer, which was okay. Now, a better class of printer, which you can use at home, is about $299.
Yeah.
Well, anything electronic is like that. Almost any kind of new technology is like that. When it first comes out, I remember the first VCRs, which you don't even see those now, but the first ones were $5,000–6,000, and they were huge. Then they got to where they were very, very small and cost you less than $100. And of course, now you don't even see them because the technology changed. So that's always going to be there with something that gets used a lot. As long as it's not a hobby kind of thing. And 3D printing is going to be around from now on, probably, until they come up with something better, something that we haven't thought of yet, probably. Because I remember the first time I heard about 3D printing, it was science fiction stuff. I mean, it was really weird to see they could make something out of plastic filament, and make it look like something.
I think this is going to work. Yeah, and this is one of the ones that I sort of challenged John if he was able to do for me. An N-scale PR class loco, which is our version of a light Pacific, and I'll use that term very loosely. That was it. So John did that as a bit of a challenge. I asked him, was it possible to do? And he said, give me time, and gave me a shell. That loco, as I said, on the East Coast, I used to drag out all my West Australian stuff. So in Australia, all the New South Wales stuff is like a maroony red. All the stuff in New South Wales, all their rolling stock is all painted this maroon red.
Tuscan.
And I would turn up with this large green painted steam locomotive with these green and cream carriages, and all the kids would go, hey, look, it's something different.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit like at a show. If you've got Union Pacific locos and then you turn up with a BNSF loco, all the kids go, oh, look, Mummy, look at the orange one. And that's what it was. As I said, John and I are now going to look at updating this P loco to have more details. We've still got to add all the injector clack valves on top of the boiler, all the feed pipes, because we can now do that with resin printers. The smallest detail we can do with a resin printer is 0.1 of a mil by 0.1. We can go, now I'm trying to convert it to thous, and this is going to do my head in. Basically, I think we can go less than a thou of detail, which you can't do with styrene at all. 10 thou, I think, is the thinnest styrene you can buy. So, but as Steve 87th just put up, what's a good CAD program? Well, it depends on what you want to do. Fusion 360, there is a free plan available. You can get it. I use AutoCAD Inventor because I've had that since it very first came out back in the early 2000s. John uses Creo Parametric. You can do, Google SketchUp. Tinkercad is free as well. Tinkercad's online. Doesn't cost you a cent to use it. And Tinkercad's probably the best place to start if you want to start playing with this stuff. It's free. You do it in a web browser. and you can just play to your heart's content. You know, you don't have to come up with something as intricate as that. You know, you can come up with many other things. You know, I mean, I did the first diesel a couple of years ago as a 3D print because, well, I'll be upfront and honest with you. I have a diesel class here that's a brass one. Ali has the same one, and I'm just too lazy to finish soldering mine together. I'll be honest. I just really cannot be bothered finishing to do it. I just haven't got the motivation there. I know. It's bad. So I decided that I would 3D print a shell using that brass assembly as my measurements baseline. You know, as I said, so what I've just got to wait for my Microsoft OneDrive to pull the file down from cloud storage, because I normally work on my big desktop computer, but that's still in transit at the moment. Okay. Hopefully this has worked. I hope. Form light, plane perspective. Now, you know, I'm hoping this one will play ball and work. Should do. View gadget. Okay, that's loading up. Let's see if this works. Of course it doesn't want to work now.
Whilst Chris is trying to get that to load, I'm just going to do a quick little intermission here. Don't forget, Teesprings, link in the description down below. Get yourself shirts, mugs, hats, link in the description. Awesome pillows. And also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to hear more about this. Comment in the description down below, in the comment section down below if you want to get more stuff about this, see more of Chris. And, yeah. Back over. That. Q class.
So this is a Q class, which is, I'm trying to think what the closest American equivalent would be. I'm just trying to think. It's a 4,000 horsepower unit. So it'd be what, SD
70.
45? 70, yeah.
70.
So it's an EMD. So I decided that I really couldn't be bothered putting this brass kit together that comes as a sheet of brass bits but no instructions. And I thought, well, I'll use the parts here and I'll try and guesstimate it and make a 3D print. That loco has been on the exhibition circuit for about 5 and a bit years and has never missed a beat. Unfortunately, I did commit sacrilege, and I expect to cop a lashing from Steve for this, but I had to sacrifice an Intermountain Southern Pacific ST45-2 to make the Q class work.
Better than Santa Fe.
I was going to say, it could have been worse. It could have been Santa Fe.
Oh, don't go there.
But not quite nice.
But this loco goes to all the exhibitions here in Australia that I've been to: Melbourne, Sydney, Wagga Wagga, Canberra, and it's been a faultless performer. And the kids love it because it's bright yellow and it's got big words West Rail on the side, and they go, oh, look, it's something different instead of the normal New South Wales that you see over there. So, as I said, I've learned a lot. John taught me a lot, and he's taught me a lot of tricks, and I've then translated them across. And that's the thing, is that, you know, I still learn. I still learn every day. I learned new tricks today working on this particular brake coach. It has all this very intricate, ornate paneling. And I'm still learning how to do that. So, you know, it's a bit like, you know, if you're a scratch builder, you still learn how to do things each time you do something. Now, it's like, I'm sure with Claude with his turnouts, he learns something new each time he builds one.
Yeah.
He goes, how come I didn't do it before? And then you curse at yourself, and then you rinse and repeat.
Or you get it on the layout and you have to fix something and you think, yeah, I'll do that way next time.
You know?
So yeah, you're always learning something.
And that's the beauty of it. I mean, I've got one here, and this will probably be my last sort of thing. I'll throw a bone at me for a bit, and then we'll see if any people have got questions. Because I then went and created new stuff. Here we go. Here's a good comparison. Hoping these load. So this is an example of learning something. Just got to wait for the software to load the file. So I do apologize for it all. It normally doesn't take this long to load. Okay. All right. Okay. So share screen. Okay. Now, Ali will pick this, but the rest of you may take a little bit to play catch up. So this was an attempt at a composite long distance coach. So it's a basically, we called them dog boxes because that's virtually what you were. There's no corridor. You're in a compartment. That's it. Not my greatest first attempt. This was about 5 years ago. I started on this, and it's not right. Not by a long shot.
An ACL?
Yeah, ACL. Short ACL. So I then decided that I didn't like it. I thought I'd redo it. So I've still got a few more things to add to it, but this gives a better picture of where it's at. You know, it has all the detail that I want to start getting in it. I still need to go and fix up the flattener vents on the roof. They're just placeholders for the minute, so I know where they got to go. And the beauty of it is, at our club on Monday night, they showed off the ACL long, which filled in a few gaps where the drawings don't have info. You know, of all places, where a pass-through pipe is for the vacuum brakes. So, as I said, I've still learnt a lot, and I'm still learning. You know, as I said, I learn something new, I'll tell it to John. John will then maybe take it and use it, or he'll go, oh, hang on, have you tried it this way? So, as I said, it's all about learning, and you start anywhere. Start small. You know, there was a kid in Canberra that I had in our club, 12 years old, comes to me and he goes, I want to model New South Wales. I went, okay. He goes, I want to model what they do down at Goulburn. Okay. We then did our research. No kits available. I then suggested, let's do it out of styrene, and I got the usual look from a kid going, huh? He then turned around and said, oh, but we're doing 3D printing at school. Aha. So we got the drawings out, and over 6 weeks at school, he was working on the file, his heart's content, and he was as proud as punch when he come to a running weekend, and he goes, I've done it. I said, okay. So he gets the file out, and his parents did send me the file that he did. And it might not sort of seem much, but this is a 12-year-old kid who, the first time in his life, he's actually built something from the ground up. And he did it with 3D printing, and he did it with only a little bit of my help. And that was only just for me to tell him what the printers could do. So this is the file. I've had to convert it from Tinkercad, so I'm going to see how good it works, but we'll see. Should take a second. So he did his own open gondola wagon. And New South Wales, they like to do a lot of press sheet steel. So there's a lot of little indents on there. Took him 6 weeks at school, but that's his wagon. He now runs he's got 6 of them, and he runs them faultlessly around his layout. So anyone can do it. You know, I've got a guy in the Canberra club who's done a coal stage. He's in his 70s. He's an ex-military officer. He used computers when they were punch cards.
Sounds like my dad.
He's now taught himself to use Fusion 360. So as I said, anyone can do it. It's just having the patience to want to learn to do it. That's all I can really say to anyone is just give it a go. You have no harm in giving it a go.
Well, you said punch cards, and I got a cold chill down my back. Brought back memories of trying to program Fortran. That was a nightmare.
You know, as I said, the beauty of the computers nowadays is you can take your file, you can put it into the slicing software that we use to slice it, and it will tell you what prints. Oh yeah, John, as John said, tips and trips. He slices the model into multiple parts, which has advantages. You can't print it all. You can't print an interior attached to the chassis. You know, you've got to print it as 3 pieces for it to work. But again, you know, we might get to that point one day where you never know. You know, there we go. As Sparky said, you know, kids learn 3D printing.
Yeah.
You know, I was lucky. I went to high school at that real change where we still had metalwork, woodwork. So I learned all those fundamentals. But I was also learned, hey, look, here's Blender as a 3D software that was 0.1 version when it originally came out. You know, so I learned all that then. But again, there are plenty of people out there who can learn things. You know, this same 70-year-old who's learning Fusion 360 has now learned how to use JMRI for his program. I give him another couple of months and I reckon he'll have his layout computer controlled if he keeps going. So as I said, you know, you learn as you do it, and it doesn't hurt. Tinkercad is free. Go and have a play. You know, the worst it will tell you is, yeah, you can't print it because the detail is too small. But the computer will tell you that before you even hit print. So
Tinkercad is a sponsor. Just want to say.
So as I said, I'll open it for any questions or dumb ideas or feedback, all of the above. I usually don't bite.
Claude?
Unlike the hole in my hand. My day's going to school, wood shops, metal shops. So as I said, that's my interest. As I said, DCC, I love playing with. It's really cool. You know, especially these new ESU decoders. I sat there tonight pulling down decoder, and it took an hour and a half to download all the data out of one decoder. Because there's now CVs of sub-CVs of sub-CVs. You know, there's just incredible what you can do. Same as John and I had a joke the other day about our N-Scale X class. We thought, wouldn't it look cool to have a smoke generator in there? And sound. And the Germans make a smoke generator that will fit that loco.
Oh, God. In N-Scale.
Sad thing is we can actually fit 2 smoke generators in there.
Wow.
Could you imagine the guys letting us go around, you know, Franz River with the X-Class spewing smoke?
The only problem I have with those smoke generators is they leave oil everywhere.
It's an X-Class.
No, I mean on the track. That means you've got to clean the track.
Again, it's an X-Class.
I know it's true to prototype, but it's still a pain.
You know, they just leaked oil everywhere.
Yeah, the prototype didn't have to clean it up, though.
Exactly.
No. As we found out in a book recently, they just set their own bogies on fire instead of leaking oil.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they were quite often very, very black locos.
Oops. Just
Question from Steve A7th PSAP. He says, resin printing, how do you decide how to put down the base and hook things off so you can get a good print?
I don't have it on this PC, but so in your resin printing slicing software, you can sit there and you can load the model and you can angle it and everything. And so John's just put his bit in there, but we'll come back to it. Basically, you can usually do, it depends on how you design the model. So if you're building a coach, I'll pick on a coach because they're solid roof. Normally they're solid roof. You've got to have a hole for it to drain the resin from. Otherwise it tends to fill up and then ruin your print. But the main thing is, you know, you just sit there and play with it, and you can do test prints. You know, the worst it's going to cost you is maybe a couple of dollars to do a test print and go, oh, hang on, that doesn't work. You know, I had a friend of mine in Canberra with his printer printed a New South Wales 81 class, and I think that'd be closest to maybe a GP38 horsepower wise. They're only a 1600 horsepower loco. And he printed one flat on his resin bed, and he had nothing but issues. You know, you could see all the faults in the print, everything. He then put the print on a 45-degree angle, and it prints faultlessly every time. It gets all the detail, everything. Some models you have to print on an angle. John will correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I believe he prints the X classes flat on the base and 6 at a time. He can get 6 on his resin printer. So, you know, it comes down to what your printer is and what sort of model you've got, really, before you can work out how you're going to print it. If you've got a filament printer, it's flat on the bed. If you've got a resin printer, some models you need angles, some can be flat on the bed. It really comes down to what your model is. You know, it's, you know, like I'll pick on the ADE. You know, it's got funny curves and everything on it. If I was resin printing it, it would probably get printed pretty much on that angle on the bed to make it work. But, you know, on a filament printer, I can just sit it flat on the bed and it will print. You know, as I said, they are all interesting. As John said, most of mine are flat 3 at a time. So again, it comes down to the model. You know, that I know it's a rambling answer, but there's too many variables to answer your question without a specific model, if it makes sense.
There's a quick question here from Sparky as well. He wants to know if you have any of your 3D prints with you to show.
So that's what we call the wildflower class here in WA. So I've still got one end to finish, but that's a 3D print on a filament printer. You can just see the lines in the roof. You can see where the lines are in the paint. That's a filament printer. So that's printing plastic at 0.4 of a millimeter. I'm trying to think what that is in imperial, but I'll have to come back to you. You know, that's a country, you know, rail car, which just fits when I can get it out, because I designed the frame so well. Come on. I love using these Japanese mechanisms when it wants to come out, because I learnt my lesson. You don't make the mechanism too thin. That just uses a drop-in Tommy Tech mech. Fitting DCC to these is so simple. You cut the 2 feed wires, you solder the decoder in, and you're off to the races. So, you know, and again, this one really shows off the print lines in the roof. Just got to get it on the right angle, but you can see them just in the roof, in the light. That's the only downside to filament printing, is there are the lines. But again, John taught me a trick. You go down to your local automotive store, and here in Australia, we've got Super Cheap Auto. We've got spray putty. It comes in a purple can. If you spray it on these shells, it gets rid of 90% of those filament lines in one hit. And then if you use the Vallejo paints, they usually get rid of the other 10%. Except when your printer wants to have a moment, like mine did with one of these shells. I'm going to try and see if I can get it in the light. You might be able to see it, might not. No, you can't. Oh, there you go. You can just see there's a line through the middle of the shell on this side. Not this side. There's a line in the middle of the shell. It decided to under extrude for one layer only. And it's 0.2 of a millimeter instead of 0.4. So, you know, again, it's one of those rarities that occur. But again, you could fill it in. If I had the Tamiya putty and all that here, I could probably fill it in and you wouldn't have ever noticed it. So, you know, I've learnt a lot and I'm still learning. You know, as I said, they're simple. I mean, the beauty of N scale is at 2 feet, no one notices what you've missed. It's not like HO or HON3 where if you miss a steam generator, they notice it. Now, N scale,
N scale forgiving.
Well, especially the older the observer is.
Yeah.
It's harder for us to see that little stuff.
Yeah, I do like the fact that it is forgiving.
And that's the beauty. I mean, you know, this stuff it's proto freelance, and I'll go with that because, as I said, they should be on 6.5mm track, but I'm not going to redo all my layouts, so I can't run all my standard gauge stuff, all my Kato American stuff to do it. So I've made the conscious decision that I'm going to run it on 9mm mechanisms. And at 2 feet away, and if you didn't know better, you couldn't tell the difference because it looks proportional. Yeah, okay, it's not 1/160th, it's 1/148th, but you don't notice it. You know, and a lot of this WAGR passenger stuff was born out of me making a comment to John on one night on Facebook that says, it'd be really nice to have the AYE, AYF coaches. And 2 or 3 months later, and John goes, here you go, here's the AYE, AYFs. You know, and then it was, oh, hang on, now I need a locomotive to pull it, which is where the steam loco came out of. We then got chatting about what would be really, really nice to have is, I said to him, it would be really nice to have the X class with the Australian consist. So the Australian's a train that goes down to Bunbury. Used to be locomotive hauled. It'd be, I'm just trying to think distance-wise. I'm trying to think of a short line in the States I know of that'd be similar distance, and I can't think of one. It's about 125, 150 miles tops. I think the distance from Perth to Bunbury.
Sounds about right.
It was locomotive haul with oil burners when it first started. And then I decided I thought it'd be really nice, you know, have an N scale X class and the full Australian consist. And again, it's a case of we did version 1 and then John said, I'm going to get a resin printer, which usually leads to the conversation of, I think I need to redo some carriages. Now, I've just got to find them. This is the one, and Ally will get a kick out of this one a little bit. Perspective, done, okay.
There's a question here from Steve 87th again, saying,
Yep.
Best place to get 3 files to print. Things hard to find in Tinkercad. Suggestions?
Thingiverse.
That's exactly what John's just posted straight underneath. Thingiverse.
Great minds think alike, even though we're in the same state. Okay. Now, I've just got to hope and pray this renders, but Ally should get a kick out of this one, I hope.
I'm having a few issues with things freezing on my end, so I'm actually trying to watch things now through my phone, and it's actually working now. So I'm going to keep looking down every now and again. So bear with me.
All right. You're all right. We'll bear with you.
Woo.
So John and I decided that we needed the X class, which I showed you earlier, and then we decided that we needed to upgrade the coaches to go with it. So after spending 9 hours in front of the computer over 2 days, I put the matchstick paneling in. And unfortunately, Autodesk Inventor decided it wanted to have a moment or 3 and wouldn't let me do the cheat, which is you create one and then pattern it. No, I didn't want to do that, so I had to do each of those matchsticks individually on this model. Now, John has 3D printed these, but I don't have a really good clear photo, but the matchsticks actually turn out.
This is N scale again?
This is N scale, and I'm hoping I might be able to borrow that set off him and bring him to the club, the X class.
Now that I would be interested to see.
Well, that's right. As I said to you, I'm now working on the later version, which has got plywood sides and the ARA coaches at each end, which are a sitting brake car. So, and I'm going to zoom in. It's probably going to break something, but this is going to be worth it just to show Ali.
You 3D printed the numbers, the class numbers.
And good news, I have them in SN 3.5.
Ooh. I've got the details for them.
I know, but decals are so boring now. Not when you can 3D print the class plates now. Yeah, and as John did do a print of the coaches, and they do show up. They don't show up in the raw resin, but when you put paint on it, they are very small, but they do appear.
Ooh.
So what I really need to do is I need to make the text a little bit bigger to make it printable. But again, you know, this is one evolution. This started with a conversation of let's see what we can do. We did the filament version and we went, they look okay. John got the resin printer and we went, let's push it. And we just kept pushing it. You know, I'm almost finished the interiors for those coaches. They'll have a full lit interior to go with them.
Wow.
You know, we're going to, you know, I mean, I had to go out to the Railway Museum here in Pasadena and I got funny looks at from the guys who are running it because I'm in the catering car measuring up the bar and the cupboards. You know, as I said, we're going to try and push it. But again, it's not for everyone. Not everyone wants to have a coach with a full detailed interior. So again, we offer the flexibility. We can just put in some black styrene and cover the windows up if you really want to go down that path. You know, I'm going to see if I can find it. I do have a photo that I did take, and it does show the 3D printed locos running. I'm hoping it's going to work. Maybe. I didn't intend to pull this one up, but I figured, well, since someone asked me about can I show some of it, I do have, because unfortunately all these other locos are all in storage at the moment, or all in container. So, okay. I don't know how well this is going to work. All right, I'm going to try this. Hopefully this works, so bear with me. Application window. Okay. Come on. Play ball. So there's the PR steamer and the AYE passenger carriages. And yes, that is an interior inside those coaches. So
there's a black screen for me here. I'm just waiting for the video to catch up because it's 20 seconds behind to see if it's actually
okay.
No, it's right. Showing on my end.
It's showing at your end? Okay,
yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I can see it.
You know. So again, that was in Canberra on their layout. And they said the kids would love that because it's green and cream with the yellow roofs, and the kids would go, whoa. Yeah, it was different. And I'm hoping this will work, and I'm not. Because Ali's saying there's a 20-second delay, but again, I'm hoping it might work.
The 20-second delay is on our end. It's on YouTube's end.
Okay, that's all right. Let me just stop that. I'm going to try this. This might work, might not. I'm hoping it will. So we'll give it 20 seconds. Okay. It's not the greatest resolution. It was done quickly, but this is the queue pulling all 3D printed wagons. Every one of these wagons is all 3D printed on a filament printer, and they all run faultlessly. They all got micro trains, bogies, everything. You know, even the 44-gallon drums are all 3D printed. So it's one of those things that it runs, yeah, perfectly. 3D printed on the movie Weird Science. Wasteland Motors. I was going to say, to answer Crazy Joe, I think Thingiverse do have some Wasteland Motors models there, but they're the Warhammer style ones, I think. Don't quote me on that. I think if the boys could pre-print the girl in the movie, yeah, they could probably 3D print her if they really want to sit there and make a model of a person. I mean, my next thing I really want to do, which I didn't have a photo here, John actually 3D printed a funeral party with the coffin in N-scale. I thought it'd be really cool to have that draped with the American flag, and you have the George W. Bush funeral train. I thought that'd just make a nice little diorama. How do you get the weights in the model? Okay, Steve, I'll show you a trade secret. Give me a second to load the file.
And while you're doing that, Bernard said he thinks his boys thought they could 3D print the girl in the movie Weird Science.
Nice.
That's pretty good. That's an old movie, but that's funny, Bernard.
I'll pay that. Okay. All right. How do I get weight in them? All right. So, clean screen. Oh. Okay. So we'll try this again. Different ways, nuts, bolts, washers. Okay. So John uses his methodology. So what I did in the latest generations of models that I've done for John is I make a hidey hole compartment to dump a whole lot of weight into. As you can see there, you've got the bolsters on either end. You've got this big hollow cavern. You can fit a lot of number 10 shot in there. Failing that, if you can't get shot into it, those West Rail salt containers are on each end. They've also got a number 3 fishing sinker in them too. It's just the right size to fit it. It's just the right amount of weight over the bogies, which is why that train runs faultlessly, because it weighs almost on the money. So, yeah,
what about sagging? If you've got the weight there, do you get sagging?
Knock on wood, not yet, because the frames have got so much. They're 100% infill I print on them, so there's no hollow area. There's no hollow gap. It's a solid plastic. John and I are using PLA Plus filament, and I've just taken delivery of a roll of PLA steel, which has got steel powder in it, which I'm curious to see how they're going to last, without the sagging, because I know, is it your A class or DB? One of them you had to put a brass shim in?
Yeah, the DA I've had to, and the DB sort of needs it, but I haven't really bothered with it, so I don't want to muck around with it.
Yeah. So, as I said, knock on wood, none of my models have I had the bowing effect yet. Knock on wood. But again, who knows? I don't know what may happen tomorrow. If they bow, then worst case scenario is I'm sure I can put a very thin sheet of brass on top and hide it, because they're really easy to camouflage on freight wagons. You just spray paint it yellow. Real original. It was yellow, or yellow. So,
it's the beauty of West Rail.
Exactly. That's why I found that video, because I had the circus tarps on it for you. I haven't worked out a way how to 3D print those yet. I still have to make them out of cartridge paper.
You did a cartridge paper too. Yep.
Well, I did do the aluminium foil thing, but I got annoyed at it.
Yeah, I struggled with the aluminium foil too.
Yeah, there's only one person I know who can do it with foil.
Speaking of struggling in aluminium foil, we've come towards the end of the show now. So if anyone has any other further questions or queries, don't forget to put them in the description down below. And I'd like to thank Chris for joining us today. So everyone just give him a quick round of applause. He's done a fantastic job describing everything for us and introducing us to the black art magic of 3D printing.
Yep.
As I will give John's website a plug, and I will give Ali the address to put in the stream description. So have a look at his model. That's where a lot of them sit.
Yep. Thanks for being on the show, Chris.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you, John, for sitting in the comments there as well. You've been very helpful. And thank you, everyone else, for being in the comments to ask brilliant questions and answer those. I've had a bit of trouble this week with things freezing on me and boosting me out of StreamYard, so I do apologise for that, but hopefully we can fix that in the future. And that's it from me. Anything else from you guys?
No, I'm cool.
Not for me.
No.
Everybody have a good week. Thanks for coming.
And we'll see you guys next week. For sure.
See you guys same time, same place next week.
Oh, boxcar.
Bye.
Later.
Toodaloo.